Hello, dear students. How are you? Hope you are well by the grace of Almighty Allah. Today I am going to take my second class on Gettysburg Address. Hope you will enjoy my class. Without wasting any time, let's start our class. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Abraham Lincoln. Dear students, welcome to my class. I am Mahmoud Hassan Masood, lecturer, Department of English, Norsindi Government College, Norsindi. So this class has been designed for the students of honors first year, course titled Introduction to Prose, Fiction and Non-Fiction, topic Gettysburg Address. This is a very important class. You know, this is my second class on Gettysburg Address. Today I am going to discuss the following topics. Abraham Lincoln. I'll give you brief information about Abraham Lincoln. Then I'll discuss about the Gettysburg Address. And I'll give you some important questions for practice. It's time to know about Abraham Lincoln. You can see the picture of Abraham Lincoln. Now I will give you brief information about Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was born in Kentucky, United States on February 12, 1809. He was an American statesman and lawyer who served as the 16th President of the United States from March 1861 until his assassination in April 1865. Lincoln led the United States through its Civil War, its bloodiest war, and perhaps its greatest moral, constitutional, and political crisis. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which is a presidential proclamation and executive order, on September 22, 1861. It changed the legal status under federal law of more than 3.5 million enslaved African Americans in the secessionist Confederate States from slave to free. He preserved the Union, that is, United States. He paved the way for the abolition of slavery. He strengthened the federal government and modernized the economy. He died on April 15, 1865, Washington, D.C., US. Cause of death, assassination, gunshot onto the head. Dear students, you can see brief information about Abraham Lincoln. He was born on February 12, 1809 in Kentucky, America. He was the 16th President of America. He was a lawyer. He was a statesman. He led America through its Civil War. It was really a great crisis moment, critical moment, great crisis. It was a critical moment for the United States. He led America through its Civil War. Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, a presidential proclamation and executive order that changed the legal status of 3.5 million slaves to free. He preserved America from getting disintegrated. He paved the way for the abolition of slavery. That's the major contributions of Abraham Lincoln to his country. But unfortunately, he was assassinated. He died on April 15, 1865. But we think the people of the world will remember him the people of the world will give him a permanent place in their hearts. Uh, many poems have been written about Abraham Lincoln. Two famous poems I can mention here about two famous poems written about Abraham Lincoln. One is When Lilacs Last in the Doriad Bloomed, written by Walt Whitman, a famous American poet. It is an elegiac poem. Then another famous poem is Oh Captain, My Captain. It is also written by Walt Whitman. Many movies also have been made uh, on Abraham Lincoln. I can mention here two famous movies. One is Lincoln, released in 2012. It was directed by Steven Spielberg. Another movie I can mention here, that is Saving Lincoln, released in 2013, directed by Salvador Lidbeck. So if you can watch the two movies or you can read the poems, you'll get more information about Abraham Lincoln. Here you can see the statue of Abraham Lincoln at Lincoln Memorial, Washington, D.C. The words inscribed on the statue are, "In this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever. Yes, his place has been sealed in our hearts." Now it's time to know about the Gettysburg Address that was delivered by Abraham Lincoln on November 19, 1863. Here I'm going to give you some information about Gettysburg Address. Although I have mentioned this information in my previous class, but I think this will be very helpful for you to understand the text well. Gettysburg Address. Gettysburg Address is a famous speech, a public address delivered by Abraham Lincoln on November 19, 1863 in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Gettysburg Address was delivered by Abraham Lincoln at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery at Gettysburg on the afternoon of Thursday, November 19, 1863, during the American Civil War. It was delivered 4.5 months after the Union armies defeated those of the Confederacy at the decisive Battle of Gettysburg. The Battle of Gettysburg occurred, from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, in and around the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It was among the bloodiest and grimest of the battles of the American Civil War. Significance of Gettysburg Address. Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln is historically famous because it redefined the American nation. It gives new meaning to American nation. It guaranteed liberty and equality for all its citizens, irrespective of caste, color, and creed, and strengthened its solidarity and unity to save the country from disintegration. So Gettysburg Address was delivered by Abraham Lincoln on November 19, 1863. He delivered this famous speech and he went to Gettysburg to dedicate the Soldiers' National Cemetery at Gettysburg Battlefield. The significance of Gettysburg speech is it redefines the American nation. It gives new meaning to American nation. It guarantees liberty and equality for all the citizens of America, which was the motto of American War of Independence. Here you can see a picture of Abraham Lincoln, who is going to deliver his famous speech, famous Gettysburg Address. Another picture of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is delivering his famous speech, famous Gettysburg speech at Gettysburg. You can see another picture of Abraham Lincoln. He's delivering his very important, very significant speech at Gettysburg Battlefield. The speech was very important because it redefines the American nation. Now you can see the Gettysburg National Cemetery. You know, the Gettysburg National Cemetery is a United States national cemetery created for Union casualties of the July 1st to July 3rd, 1863 Battle of Gettysburg in the American Civil War. It is located just outside Gettysburg Borough to the south in Adams County, Pennsylvania. The land was part of the Gettysburg Battlefield. While the soldiers from Union side are buried here who died during the Battle of Gettysburg from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863. You know, the Union armies defeated the Confederacy armies at this battle, and after 4.5 months later, on November 19, 1863, Abraham Lincoln came here to dedicate a portion of the National Cemetery for the martyrs who actually fought here, who died here, who were buried here. And Abraham Lincoln delivered his famous speech. It was a very critical time for America. He wanted to preserve the unity of America. So this is the place where the Gettysburg battle took place. And Abraham Lincoln came here. Abraham Lincoln came here to dedicate this national Gettysburg National Cemetery for the martyrs who fought here and died here. You can see another picture of Gettysburg National Cemetery. Another picture of Gettysburg National Cemetery. Dear students, here you can see the written form of the Gettysburg Address with the picture and signature of Abraham Lincoln. Now we are going to listen to the Gettysburg Address, Gettysburg speech delivered by Abraham Lincoln.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggle here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Dear students, now we will watch a video on the same Gettysburg Address, on the same speech, Gettysburg Address, but this time, this speech has been taken from the movie Saving Lincoln. Here, Tom Amandis acted as Abraham Lincoln.
The President of the United States! As if they have needed to reinvigorate the people to explain to them, and perhaps himself, why this endless plague of war must continue. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate. We cannot consecrate. We cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
It was really a very significant speech by Abraham Lincoln. It was really a very inspirational speech that inspired the nation. Dear students, now you can see the text of Gettysburg Address. This speech, this address, Gettysburg Address, was delivered by Abraham Lincoln on November 19, 1863. Now I'm going to read out the text, and at the same time I'll give you the meanings of some words, and I'll try to explain every line so that you can easily understand the text. So let's start with our text. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Dear students, here Abraham Lincoln starts his speech with reference to the American War of Independence that occurred in 1776. 7 years ago means 87 years ago. That means the year in 1776. Fathers means ancestors, predecessors. Here, fathers refers to the American heroes who fought at the American War of Independence. Brought forth means gave birth to, established on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty. That means the forefathers of America, the American heroes who fought in the American War of Independence in 1776, they established a country, established a nation on the principle that all men are free. The American heroes who fought in the American War of Independence against British imperialistic rule, they built a nation, they established a nation on the proposition means belief, principle, on the belief that all men are created equal. All men will get equal rights, irrespective of caste, color, and creed. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. Here Abraham Lincoln tells us the present situation in America. That means the situation in the year 1863. The Americans are engaged in a great civil war. That means American Civil War. The American Civil War is a test for American nation, either this nation will exist or perish, either this nation will exist for a long time or not. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. Abraham Lincoln and the other people have met at Gettysburg Battlefield, which was a part of American Civil War. You know, a great battle took place at Gettysburg from July 1st to July 3rd in 1863. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who had gave their lives that that nation might live. Now Abraham Lincoln tells us the purpose of his coming at Gettysburg. He came at Gettysburg to dedicate a portion of the Gettysburg National Cemetery as a final resting place, as a graveyard cemetery for the soldiers who fought at the Battle of Gettysburg and sacrificed their lives so that the American nation might live, American nation might exist forever. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Abraham Lincoln thinks that the dedication they are making at the Gettysburg National Cemetery for the martyrs, for the soldiers who died at the Battle of Gettysburg, the dedication is proper one, is a fitting one, and they should do this. They should pay proper homage, proper respect to the soldiers, to the martyrs who died at Gettysburg. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. Then Abraham Lincoln tells us that they cannot dedicate themselves, they cannot devote themselves, they cannot consecrate. Consecrate means treat with respect. They cannot hallow. Hallow means make holy, make sacred something. This ground, that means the battlefield of Gettysburg. Because the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. Abraham Lincoln thinks that the brave men, the soldiers who fought at the Battle of Gettysburg, maybe some of them are still alive, many of them had died, many of them sacrificed their lives. They struggled at the battlefield of Gettysburg. They have already consecrated, made this place holy, made this place sacred by their great sacrifice. And it is far beyond the power of the common people of Abraham Lincoln to add something or to detract. Detract means lessen or reduce something from this battlefield. The world will little note, no long remember what we say here. Abraham Lincoln thinks that the world will little note or it will not remember for a long time what he is saying at the Gettysburg. But it can never forget what they did here. But the world history will never forget, the people of the world will never forget the sacrifices made by the soldiers at the Battle of Gettysburg. You know, the Battle of Gettysburg was a turning point of the American Civil War. The Union forces won the war over the Confederate forces. That's why the war was very important for the Union side. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. Abraham Lincoln thinks that the living Americans have got a great responsibility to dedicate themselves to the unfinished work, unfinished task left by the soldiers, left by the martyrs who sacrificed their lives at the Battle of Gettysburg for a noble cause, for a great cause, for the greater interest of the country. They saved the country from getting disintegrated. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us. He again says, the living Americans should dedicate themselves to the great task, great work that was remaining before them, to build the nation, to ensure equality and liberty to all the citizens of America. That was the dream of the soldiers who sacrificed their lives. That from this honored date we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measures of devotion. Abraham Lincoln thinks that the soldiers who died at the Battle of Gettysburg, who sacrificed their lives, they were honored dead. They were glorious, majestic persons because their sacrifice was a great one. And the living Americans should take increased devotion to that cause, the cause of ensuring liberty and equality to every citizen of America, to preserve the unity of America. That was the cause for which the soldiers lay down their lives at the battlefield of Gettysburg. And the living Americans should take increased devotion, should take courage, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. So Abraham Lincoln thinks that the living Americans should decide firmly, should determine here, should take oath here that these dead shall not have died in vain. The soldiers had died at the Battle of Gettysburg not in vain, not without any purpose, not without any reason, not unnecessarily, because that this nation, they sacrificed their lives so that this nation under God, having faith in God and religion, shall have new birth of freedom. The soldiers sacrificed their lives so that America might have a new birth of freedom. You know, America got its independence from British colonial rule in 1776, but it has failed to ensure liberty and equality to every citizen of America. That's why Abraham Lincoln hopes that America will have a new birth of freedom through the sacrifices made by the soldiers at the battlefield of Gettysburg. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And Abraham Lincoln here hopes for the best for America. He hopes a bright future for America. He wants to establish a democratic society. He wants to establish a democratic government in which every person will have a participation. And he wants to build a democratic system, democratic government. The form of the democratic government will be government of the people. That means government belongs to the people, by the people. That means government will be formed by the people and for the people. That means the government will rule the country for the welfare of the people. And this type of government, this type of democratic government, democratic society shall not perish from the earth. Perish means to be destroyed, to be extinct. So dear students, here we see the Gettysburg Address is well organized. It starts with a reference to the past, the American War of Independence that occurred in 1776. The motto of the American War of Independence was to create a discrimination-free America on the basis that all men are free, all men are equal. Then Abraham Lincoln moves to the present time, that is in 1863, and the Gettysburg, and the American Civil War was taking place, and the Americans were engaged in American Civil War. And then Abraham Lincoln tells the eulogizes the sacrifices made by the soldiers at the battlefield of Gettysburg. Then he urges the living Americans to take devotion, to dedicate themselves to the unfinished task left by the soldiers, left by the martyrs who sacrificed their lives for a greater cause, to preserve the unity of the America, to preserve the unity of America, to ensure liberty and equality for every citizen of America. Then Abraham Lincoln hopes a bright future for America. He wants to form a democratic government system in which all people will have a participation. Dear students, now I am going to give you some word meanings. Fathers means forefathers, ancestors, or predecessors. Here it refers to the dead American heroes who fought in the war in 1776 against the British imperialist rule for the freedom of their motherland. Brought forth means gave birth to, established, created. Conceived means formed. Dedicated to means sacrificed, devoted to. Proposition means an offer or suggestion, an idea or opinion, belief, principle. Civil war, a war fought between groups of citizens of the same country. Endure, tolerate, to continue in the same state, to remain firm under suffering or misfortune without yielding. Final resting place means graveyard. Here it refers to the National Cemetery at Gettysburg. Consecrate means sanctify, make sacred, dedicated to a sacred purpose, to make or declare sacred, to make venerable. Hallow means make holy, treat with great respect, to respect greatly, venerate or sanctify. Detract, lessen, lower, reduce. Now I'm going to give you some important questions. Brief questions for you. Who was Abraham Lincoln? When did America get independence? What document did Lincoln allude in the very beginning of his speech? When did American Civil War begin? When did American Civil War come to an end? What was the root cause of American Civil War? Who were the opposing parties involved in the American Civil War? When did the Battle of Gettysburg take place? How long did the battle at Gettysburg last? Where is Gettysburg? Why did Abraham Lincoln go to Gettysburg? When and where did Abraham Lincoln make his famous speech, Gettysburg Address? When did Lincoln announce Emancipation Proclamation? What does Lincoln mean with the great task remaining before us? How does Lincoln define democracy in his address? Short questions for you. What, according to Lincoln, are the responsibilities of living Americans? What, according to Lincoln, are the unfinished tasks? What does Lincoln mean by new birth of freedom? How does Lincoln define democracy? Explain. Broad question for you. What was the historical background that led Abraham Lincoln to deliver his famous speech, Gettysburg Address? How did Abraham Lincoln prove that democracy is the best form of government? How does Lincoln redefine the American nation in his famous Gettysburg Address? Dear students, I hope you will study these questions, you'll practice these questions at home. Thank you, dear students. My second class on Gettysburg Address concludes here. You know, I have taken 2 classes on Gettysburg Address. I hope these classes will help you to understand the text better and help you to get good marks in the exam. So keep watching me. Try to join in my class. Before leaving, I'd like to say, try to stay at home. If it becomes necessary to go out, then maintain the social distance and try to keep safe. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching me.